So that's it, it's done and dusted. Me screaming like a nut job. It's done for a little bit for now. The World Cup is over, but what will we remember from this World Cup? Here's 5 things that I will take away from the 2018 World Cup. Number 1, incessant GOAT chat. It was constant in the group stages, and it was kind of Ronaldo's fault, if I'm honest. He kicked off with a hat-trick against Spain, and he arrived. You know, he stepped up, and he had his little goatee, which created the GOAT chat, and it really was everywhere. And look, I'll be honest, I bought into it as well, because I've got a horse in the race. I prefer Messi. Do I really hate Ronaldo? No! We shouldn't say this, but no one really likes Cristiano Ronaldo. Come on. Of course I don't. A little bit. But he did step up, didn't he? Scored those first 3 goals and showed what he can do. Totally clinical. And it was the first moment of the World Cup, really. Those first set of group games, there's been so much talk. You're previewing every group. You're expecting these big players to turn up. And Ronaldo did, and Messi didn't until the last group game where he scored that unbelievable goal. I think it showed, and I'm going to get onto it later on in this video, that football is changing and teams are organised and one man can't do it all. But on that night, Ronaldo was so clinical up top. The free kick, people talk about the amount that he misses, but he is a player who steps up in the key moments, and he did in this game. The GOAT chat got a bit old, I've got to be honest. Everyone's so aggy about it, and they don't need to be, you know. They're both great players, it's fine. You're allowed to like one more than the other. I know I'm being a total hypocrite here because I was getting sucked into it, and I'm sorry about that. But it was definitely something that I remember. Lionel Messi playing against Iceland, he could have done without it, let's be honest. It's like he didn't have enough pressure on the poor guy. Losing finals, always looking slightly out of sorts for Argentina in major tournaments, but then on occasion stepping up. And this was the one, wasn't it? He was here in his prime. It was his last chance, the golden generation moving through. In Argentina, let's be honest, we're an utter shit show. And in that Iceland game, he's there trying to just run through giant Icelandic players, beautiful Icelandic players, but giant Icelandic players. And he's got hoardings reminding him that he's the greatest of all time, or supposedly that he's supposed to be. And he's got to do that 24 hours after Ronaldo scores a hat-trick. We're not stupid. That played a part. The pressure got to him a little bit in that game, and the pressure of an entire nation was too much. So the incessant GOAT chat, I'll remember that, but I'll try and forget it. Number 2, it's got to be England finding their feet. Now, they did lose 3 games in the tournament, but ultimately, they finished 4th in this tournament. That's better than Germany, Argentina, it's better than Spain, it's better than a lot of teams, obviously, because they finished 4th. There's only 3 teams that did better. But on a wider note, I think finding the feet is the right way of saying it, because the nation needed it. The nation was divided, and the nation needed something to hold on to when it came to English football. They hated it. English fans hated international football, and I totally understand it, but I also I felt like I could see, look, we just need a little bit of something to kind of grab everyone back, and Jesus, was I right in that sense? Because people jumped on board, people got excited, and often it's the journey of it all. It's the hope that kills you, but it's the hope that makes it exciting as well. And for a long time, a lot of people thought it was coming home. I am not going to say, and this is a massive pet hate of mine, in a way I think it did come home. It didn't come home. We lost 3 times. We didn't really beat anyone of huge note, if we're honest. So it didn't come home. But England fans, they care now. They can't say they didn't. It's on camera, everyone chucking their beer in the air. That was class. Some of the celebrations, winning the game against Colombia after battering them, in my opinion, and then looking like we were going to throw it away again in a knockout. But ultimately, it is finding their feet for England. There's a long way to go for England. They need 3-4 players, and they need some world-class players, and they need some creativity in midfield in particular. But there's a starting point of an exciting team there. Gareth, wow. Like, he has stepped up. He is now a bit of a god amongst England fans. He's going to be given a chance. That's a huge thing for any England manager, let alone Gareth Southgate, who people thought was an absolute joke. So England finding their feet was beautiful. Number 3, the superstars striking out. Neymar was an utter embarrassment, in my opinion. The diving was a joke. He missed out on opportunities because he was concentrating on diving and general shithousery instead of looking to create and be the main man and be a leader, be a proud leader for this Brazilian side. Instead, he was too busy trying to gain an advantage, and he let himself down. And for that, I was quite pleased. But a lot of the superstars didn't really do it. Neymar, nope. Messi, nope. Portugal didn't do much past the knockouts. Neymar got the goals early doors, but then after that, wasn't able to do too much, wasn't able to go deep into the competition. As I said, Messi struggled throughout, and Germany didn't even make it out of the group stage. Everyone will remember that. I think they got, not karma, but it was their turn to have to deal with a bit of embarrassment. And I've got to be honest, I'm quite pleased about that. Sweden topping the group, they did so well, and they could have knocked them out before that. Germany, only a bit of class from Cruz, saved them in that game with 10 men, to be fair to them. But the superstars really did strike out. It was one for the teams, for the organisation, and that led to some people thinking that the tournament was a little bit boring. I would totally disagree with that. But there was no totally fluent side running rings around anyone for most of the tournament. And that was a shame to see, but it meant you had nice tight games, and there's nothing wrong with that. Number 4, set pieces. So many set piece goals, and even in the final, a couple of set pieces, and actually 3 of the goals, I think, came from set pieces initially. And I think for me, what that shows, what that highlights, is that in modern football now, all of these teams are hard to break down. All of these teams know how to defend. All of these teams know how to keep their shape. And all of these teams have studied how to strike a football. And the two sides of that is, one, you're seeing more set piece goals because the delivery is quality, and I hope that continues because more goals means more limbs, which means more celebrations, which is great stuff. But what I've also noticed is that teams are struggling to break down sides. You saw that with England, and you saw that with a lot of other teams as well, is that in open play, the organisation of modern football teams and the fitness of modern football teams and how drilled these players are, I think it's leading us to a point where we're finding that individuality is slowly getting squished out of the game, and it's being lost for pace, for high-paced transitions in terms of counter-attacking, and not a crazy amount of just incredible guile. And that's fine, but for me, I love those attacking midfielders. Those guys who just, you give them the ball and you go, what are they going to do next? I think you've got that with some players. Neymar, a little bit. Mbappe showed it with his frightening pace. But overall, Messi got shut out. Neymar had good moments in the tournament. But as I say, there's a lack of kind of spark in the game at the moment. I feel like teams are so well drilled, and that's exciting. The pressing is exciting. But those Mavericks, we're losing that a little bit. And in World Cups gone by, the lack of organisation has lent to players like that doing something special. But now it feels like they're being crowded out, which is a bit of a shame. So set pieces is number 4. And finally, number 5, I think in the long term, it's going to be remembered for Kylliam Mbappe. People say, oh, look, he's arrived on the world stage. He's the second priciest player of all time. Second biggest transfer of all time. So we knew who he was. But as a 19-year-old, for him to devastate teams, for him to scare teams as much as he does, like I say, with those Mavericks maybe being crowded out of the game a little bit, it's turning into those monster athletes who've also got the great feet as well, that are gonna devastate teams now and now become those superstars. And Mbappe, if that's the physique and the pace that he has at 19, at the age of 23, 24, this guy is going to be unstoppable. I'm intrigued to see how he deals with the different ways that teams are going to look to defend against him, because one thing you definitely had with France was they knew what they had. They had an ace in Kylliam Mbappe, and I think that lent to their whole way of playing. You had Giroud up top, and then you had quite a low block in terms of how they set up when the opposition had the ball. You saw it against Belgium. To be honest, you saw it quite a lot against Croatia, and it doesn't look great, and it looks like the other team are dominating. And to be honest, most of the time they are dominating, but you've got a solid back four there, and Titi and Varane were great for them. But most importantly, it allows 60 yards of space for Mbappe to devastate the opposition, to get the ball. You hear the crowd go. You see the left back shit himself. You see the centre back, Vida, shit himself when he gets down that right-hand side. And Mbappe has arrived, but can he keep it going? Will he be able to devastate when it's a team that just totally concentrates on possession. Let's be honest, he's done it for Monaco and he's done it for PSG. So I'd be very surprised if he couldn't. But there's going to be new angles and aspects to his game that he's going to have to learn and develop. But as an athlete, the way I compare it to is, I think the difficulties he's going to have is going to be a bit like a test match cricketer. They have their first series and no one really knows about them, and so they can get a lot of runs. But then everyone is analysing everything that they've got. And that's what's going to happen with Mbappe. I know he's been around for a couple of seasons, but you've seen a new side of him on a global scale, and I think that's going to lead teams to really just drive through him, but it's also going to lead to teams to really dive into how they can defend against him. And the second thing is that when I see him run, I think I see Usain Bolt. The legs that this guy's got, the pace that he's got is something I don't think we've seen. I can't think of another player with so much devastating pace and great feet as well, and he's a good finisher. He's going to be frightening, and I think this World Cup will be remembered for him. Of course, Pelé was the last teenager to score in a World Cup final, and we all know how that turned out. Can Mbappe get to those kind of levels? We will see. But I think we've got a new superstar on our hands in terms of that broad appeal. Messi and Ronaldo, this is the time where those guys maybe said goodbye, and Mbappe turned up and arrived on the world stage at a different level. So those are the 5 things that I think the World Cup will be remembered for. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. I always love to get into the comments. Let me know if you're new to the channel as well, so we can have a chat, because it'd be good to get to know you. That's what this whole channel is about. Me and you having a good chat, having a discussion about football. So that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know. Click that like button, hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. Still haven't hit 10K yet. I want to get there as soon as possible. Loads of exciting stuff coming up on the channel. So make sure you stay tuned. I'll see you soon.